Welcome back to Come Sit With Us podcast with your co-hosts, Anna Ennis and Nicole St. We have got an amazing conversation for you today, as usual. Anna, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so today we're talking about the power of reflection and kind of like seeing where you've been in order to get where you want to go. So that's what we're kicking off today. So Nicole, you've had like a good amount of time in your own life where, especially most recently, where you really like honed in on the reflection part. Like, how do you think this like plays into the part of like understanding where we were and where how that determines where we're going?
Oh, I think that you have to be able to look like, so I think that had I not ever written anything down, and I know that you know this also, like you've discussed this. I've had clients who've discussed it that are like, I had no idea how far I've come until I went back and I looked at what I wrote down. Like I didn't realize I've made so many changes. Um, in kind of writing down what your goals are, what the things are that you feel like you want to address, and being able to go back and reflect on that and look at it, I think is huge because it really does allow you, whenever you're in it every day, it doesn't seem like it's changed, right? Like it kind of takes some time away to come back and look and be like, oh, wow, wow, I really have come a distance. And to be able to say, wow, I haven't come far at all. I'm still in the same place that I was 2 years ago, complaining about the same things. Like that's the reflection. That's the beauty of it, is that it can really let you know where you're at, where you've been, and have you made it to where you said you wanted to go? Have you followed through on your word? Have you done the things that you said you were going to? Um, are you still just sitting around complaining and taking zero action? Are you taking action for a week and then going back to your regularly scheduled programming? So I think that reflection is huge. It's something that I really try to do a lot, because I know that after having so many conversations, I'm like, is this deja vu? You're like, no, Nicole, this isn't deja vu. We had the same conversation 3 months ago. You're going to be in the same place next time if we talk again in 3 months. If you don't take action, if you don't do something and stay consistent, and you don't, do this, after hearing that and realizing, oh, this isn't deja vu, we have actually had this conversation before because I'm not making the changes, right? So then you just kind of got to figure out, like, the old saying, shit or get off the pot. Like, do you want to do the thing or have the life or be the version of you? All of the things that we talk about on this podcast. Do you want to have the relationship with your partner, your kids, coworkers? Do you want to have the business of your dreams? Because you can't just sit there and keep saying it. You actually have to. It can't just all be strategy and no action. It can't just be random ass action. You got to have the strategy. But you got to be able to reflect on, what is it that I need? Where is it that I'm at? Where do I want to go? And what does it take to get there? And I think that that's kind of the importance of it, because again, sometimes you don't really realize how far you've come or how little you've gone. Like until you're able to look back on the things that you've written down or the goals that you've set for yourself, the video that you made. You know what I mean? Like all of those things are like this journal of your life and of your goals or whatever, and really being able to see, have I made it? I think it's,
Yeah.
a really important question, especially, I mean, I don't know that any one situation is more important than another, like my parenting. Where am I at with my parenting? Is my daughter continuing to ask me, hey, mom, can you not say this? Or can you talk to me kindly in this way? And I'm still like, I know for my kids, they hate it whenever I raise my voice. Are they having to have this conversation with me every single time I say, hey, what can mommy do better? Is it always the same answer? Or am I actually like doing something to fix it? Um, and then going back and asking them. I mean, that's also reflection. Reflection is also being able to kind of get the awareness of another person, someone else's perspective, and really reflect on that and being able
Mhm.
to say, what are they seeing? Um, here I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or I think I'm doing this. I think this is better. Like, am I actually doing it, or is it just in my head that I think I'm, because I'm thinking about it that I'm done it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
it's kind of, yeah, that's where I find that it's very important in all aspects. Um, but especially I feel like in business, like you're not going to make any money if you're not reflecting on what's working and what's not.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, there's got to be like this almost like self-actualization, where you're like,
yeah,
oh, I think too, like for a long time, when I do these podcasts, I remember back to like how far I've come,
yeah,
and reflection was never really huge in my life in the beginning stages of business. It was always just like go, go, go. But now that I've entered into the space that I'm in now, like it's actually really important. Like the way that I've gotten to where I've gotten at this point right now is because I've slowed down to kind of like speed up. And so like I carve out intentional times for reflection. Like not only like every night before I lay down to go to bed, I'm like, okay, today, what are the things I'm grateful for? Like what could I have done a little bit different? Like, there's this whole like moment. And then when I wake up, I practice my gratitude, all this stuff, but there's actual full days that I actually dedicate to reflection. Like Fridays are like my day for myself to get like do all my fun like hair and makeup and nails and like all the stuff, right? But it's also time for me to like have a minute to go take myself out for a nice coffee and like reflect on the week and just allow whatever thoughts and stuff to kind of come through me. But that's usually a time when I reflect. And at first I would book things over that time, if something more important like got in that time, I'm like, oh no, I can do it. And now it's like, nope, that's my sacred time. Like Friday's like my day. I work really hard Monday through Thursday. And I also work Saturday. So it's like, yeah, that's my time. And so when you said like, it's almost like I feel like people who don't reflect or spend time in reflection, they're kind of just like in the rat race, and you don't actually realize, I don't realize a lot sometimes how far I've come on the days where I'm feeling very competitive, or like on the days when I'm feeling like, oh no, that's nothing. Oh, that's just an achievement. Or, oh, that's just, my marriage doing this amazing thing. Or though, no, that's just my kids doing that. It's like we almost take for granted our life,
oh, absolutely.
like,
I I noticed it in my marriage. I noticed like the lack of reflection. Are we spending enough time together? Like we don't come together and like reflect on our marriage together. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Are we actually putting any effort into this? Are
yeah.
we are we in the same place we were a year ago, just with different decor in our house? Like, you know, that kind of thing. I feel like,
And then when you get in the go with life too, like kids and stuff, I just had this moment just now with someone literally just before this call. And it was like a very reflective moment because she's struggling in her relationship, like really struggling. And she was like, oh, and she knows my husband really well. And she's like, oh, if what can happen to you guys can happen to us, like, wow, that would be like a miracle. And in my mind, I just think that sometimes this just happened, but it didn't. Like we went through, and I've shared this on here very openly, like
yeah,
we went through a lot of work to get here, even up to this last week, right? So like this last week, there's like this feeling and this barometer in our relationship that if we haven't spent alone time together, it's like it becomes a problem.
yeah,
And it's not, it kind of creeps up on you. Where like you can go like 2, 3 weeks and you're like, I'm okay, we're fine, we're doing great. We have a tight relate, we communicate, we're doing all the things. We're not fighting. But then there just becomes this like, it's nothing bad. It's just the separation happens, and you're like, no, 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 we're one. So like, we got to come back to one. And so like, the other day I was like, hey Jay, we gotta go on a date this week. And he's like, okay. And like, he never says like, oh, let's do it this time. Let's do it. No, he's like, okay, when are you thinking? And so then I'll tell him and we work something out, and we make it a priority that if one person or the other person is feeling off, that like we have to make it happen because
yeah,
we never want to go back to that spot of where we were, right? But that doesn't happen without like reflective moments, you know?
yeah.
Like you got to have them.
Yeah, I can always tell whenever my husband, like whenever we've gone too long without spending quality time together and really connecting, because he starts losing his shit about the most petty shit. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, do you want to like take it? And he can't see, like he cannot see the label from inside the jar. And
Yeah.
no amount of me trying to like explain it in the moment gets him to see. And then he's like just frustrated. So I gotta like wait for it to pass. And then we have a conversation about it. And then we're like, okay, we gotta do X, Y, and Z. And then we fall off because he's exhausted from the commute every day. I'm exhausted from, you know, being a stay-at-home mom now, which I was not always, like I always worked and still did all of the things I'm doing. So I think that there's, also some communication there
Yeah.
about, well, like, what have you done all day? Like, he doesn't say that, but I feel it.
Yeah.
So, and then that just adds to it. So, we've got the things. It's all the things.
Yeah. I think it too, I think it just in business too, when it comes to reflection, I never really saw it as important. I was like, whatever. It's
Yeah,
almost
but you
like
got to
this is
see what
why.
works, right? Like you got to see, hey, this program really sold, or like, hey, when I show up like this and my content is like this, and this is the energy I'm bringing, then I notice that like I've got all like more people in my
Yeah.
DM.
Yes. So that part of it, I always do no matter what. It's the personal reflection of me in the business as a leader. So like the
Um,
actual running of the business and like, does this work? Does this, dude, I do that nonstop. But it's the actual stepping back as a leader to see how far we've personally come as a leader. Like that wasn't ever really, I don't know. I just was like, yeah, that's okay. I mean, I should be doing more. I should be doing more. Like that was always in my head. I should be doing more. And it's like, now I don't feel that way. I'm like,
for
it's,
me, I feel like it's more of like for in my business, I feel like I've got to like I can't just show up with like my notepad and be like, hey, so what's up? You know, how are we doing? Yeah, what are we doing today? Like I can't show up that way. So um so yeah, I just have
so
to be
what
a
are
little bit more
your,
prepared.
so what are your go-tos when you're setting up a sacred space for reflection? Like what are the things that you do personally that you could share with someone that is like maybe interested in being reflective in their own life? Is there any rituals or practices?
So I am no, I have no sacred space. There's not a sacred space in my house, okay? I've got my own office. The girls come in here, they tear up my shit and then they take off and there's like a tornado of their art stuff and all of their things everywhere. I have no sacred space in this house. I've tried. I can't manage it. Um so I it's I kind of it's like intuitive stuff. Like when I there are times when I really feel like resistance to reflection. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
no, like right now, I'm not in the headspace for it. And then there are other times when I'm like, I need to sit down with myself, like we've gone a little too long and just reflect and like just kind of a lot of it happens in the shower, if I'm being honest. That's like my sacred space is the shower of being able to like not be bothered to just let the water run a little too long. I know we're in a drought always in California, but whatever. I don't give a shit. I I just that's whenever I kind of just really reflect on the things. I don't typically journal it out. Sometimes I do. I'll write down my goals and then I find notepads. I've got three. We got another one here. I've got another one here. And then I just kind of go through them and see what did I write then? Okay, cool. So they all have similar things on them. Clearly now I need to take action. And so that's whenever I write a course of action. Like this is what we're doing for the next 30 days. And then I call you and I'm like, Anna, what do I do? This is where I'm still at. This is what I thought I was going to do. Where do I need to do something? And I get another perspective because that's just how I work. But that's just
Mhm.
me. Like that's how I work. I need the other perspective. I need to see it from a different lens because sometimes I don't always see it through the lens. I can make excuses I can make it like I could see it through the excuse lens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
You know
yeah.
what? I was thinking about when I'm the most reflective, and it's so wild how when I made a decision a few years ago to actually run my business off my period cycle, like everything just changed. Everything got 10 times better. So there's like the week before my period that I am like fully reflective. And I just let that be the time. So like when the first week of the month and the second week of the month come and it's like, oh shoot, like I should be looking back on this. And I'm like, no, it's okay. You have your time. Remember, you have your time that you do this. Like you got to stay in your energy of the energy you're in right now. So it's like I started just observing. This took a while too. Like I started just observing like how I functioned in each part of my cycle and like how I actually felt. And I kind of just wrote it down like, okay, week one, I felt like this. Week two, I struggled with this. Week three. And I started just doing the tasks for my business that needed to be done within those weeks, like planting them more organically rather than, or more planned rather than kind of just flying by the seat of my pants. Because then what would happen, this is so funny, like I would plan a launch during my period and it would be like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm dying. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to work. Like, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
then
Well, welcome.
yeah, it's like,
You're still having like a regular cycle. So I'm in perimenopause where everything is all fucked up and there is no cycle to like, there is no calendar that's ever going to show me the right way any longer. Like I can't gauge it on that anymore. I can't gauge my feelings, my emotions, why I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, none of it because of that. It sucks. Let me just tell you, there is a fucking strong ass learning curve. Okay. That's what I'm going to tell
yeah,
you.
there
Yeah,
is.
it's literally getting really like how I said on, I think the last podcast or maybe the one before, that whenever I want to blow up my marriage and be like, F this, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, oh, wait, just because he didn't want to take out the garbage. Cool. Yeah, maybe I'm not really feeling that way. Maybe that's my hormones and something's going to happen soon. I don't know. Um, so yeah, it's to kind of getting reflective
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
You guys, so much fun. So if you're interested in more like tools and like some of the stuff that we use in both of our businesses for coaching, like you should definitely be a part of the membership. It's $4.99 a month. And we put in some really cool stuff in there. Nicole last month put coaching sessions in there. Like every month we kind of do something like a little bit different depending on what the theme of the month is for the podcast. So, if you want this conversation deeper, or you want to know more about reflection, you got to jump in the podcast and the link is down below. We also release episodes every Monday. So there's a brand new episode then. We're on YouTube with our beautiful shiny faces. So you can watch the episodes on YouTube and we're also on Instagram too. So there's lots of ways and all of the links are below. And we would love to have you even closer to our world. And
Yes.
if you know someone that you think like, oh my gosh, I just watched this episode, there was a couple lines in there that like, oh, I know my friend would love this. Like we like sharing. We like when people share.
Yeah.
So
Share, like, review. We love it all. And
love
we
it.
love having you here. So we will see you again next week. Thank you.
Bye.